Hi everyone, I'm Angela and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be going through 5 tips to get a 7 on your IB Physics HL exam. These are tips that I've learned from my experience doing IB Physics HL and hope they help you to get the 7 on your final exam. So let's get started. Tip number 1, do lots of practice papers. I'm sure you've heard of this lots of time, however this is by far the best tip to score a 7 on your IB Physics exam. IB styled questions are quite hard and you'll need a lot of practices to be able to understand the style of questions. A general tip is that you should start with paper 1s because they're shorter and since paper 2 is 2 hours and 15 minutes. Paper 1 is organized into topics, so you will be able to find out the specific topic that you struggle the most with and revise that topic thoroughly before moving on to paper 2. However, after doing a few paper 1s, you should now try paper 2. A common mistake is that you'll wait until you get a solid mark for paper 1 and then start paper 2. However, paper 2 actually assists in improving your paper 1 marks. So when you encounter questions you don't understand on paper 2 and learn to solve it, your paper 1 marks will improve as well, since all the knowledge is connected. Well, you might ask, how many practice papers should I do? I'd say as many as possible if you have time. For me, I did all the papers from the start of the course, so basically every single paper from 2016. If you choose to do these many papers, I'd recommend 4 to 5 paper 1s and try to figure out the area you struggle the most with, and then go back to your notes and revise them before doing any more papers. Afterwards, you should try paper 2s along with paper 1s. Another common mistake is ignoring paper 1s after consistently getting a solid mark. Not going to lie, but I did this approaching to the exams as I wanted to focus on some other subjects. But this is actually very problematic as when you come back to your paper 1s, you'll find the questions unfamiliar again and your mark will actually drop down. So if you're able to score consistently for paper 1, I'd recommend decrease the frequency of doing the paper 1s rather than completely leaving them for a period of time. Tip number 2, content is the key. Before you start doing any practice papers, make sure you're around 80% confident with all your knowledge. You should start doing practice papers early, but not until you're around 80% confident. You should check this with your textbook, but also the IB Physics syllabus. A lot of people don't use the syllabus, but it is actually very useful in helping you to identify the areas that you're not familiar with and also some small pieces of knowledge that most of us miss. Keep in mind, knowing all the content will not get you a 7 for IB Physics, so you should do a ton of practice papers with the structure described in tip 1. Tip number 3. Just like studying for Maths AHL, basically the best way to study for most science and maths related subjects are by reviewing and learning from your mistakes. So you should have a mistakes book and start this early. Each time you did a question wrong, after looking at the answer, keep a record of it either on an Excel spreadsheet or an exercise book. Try to figure out the reasoning behind it yourself, and if that doesn't work, ask your teacher, search online, or try to find it in your textbook until you completely understand the question and its related fields. For physics, I used an Excel spreadsheet instead of an exercise book, as I am able to organize the spreadsheet into topics areas and find out my weakest area. Make sure you're able to identify the topic area and the cause of your mistake. For physics, most of our mistakes will come from knowledge gaps or not reading the question correctly, as a lot of IB questions were written to try to trick you. Tip number 4. Don't be afraid to use all the practice papers since 2016. But leave 1 to 2 sets of papers, preferably the most recent exams, until 2 weeks before your exams to practice. When you've done all the practice papers, don't be afraid to redo them, as you soon realize that you can't actually remember all the questions and you're not very likely to get 100% on them. When redoing the papers, you should not aim for a 7, but aim for 100%, as you've already done the paper previously. If you cannot get 100%, you'll need to compare your mistakes with the first time you did the paper and see if they're the same. If they're the same, revise the concept and make sure you thoroughly understand it, as the first time you reviewed it, it clearly didn't work. If the mistakes are not the same, you'll need to figure out the reason behind this new mistake and whether it is a content-related issue. Tip number 5, make sure you know all the formula and the links between them. Other than explanation questions, definition questions, and knowledge questions in paper 1 and paper 2, most of the paper 1 and paper 2 questions that ask you to calculate will have a basis on a specific formula, so make sure you know all the formula and the links between them. For example, there are various formula for force and energy, and there are lots of questions that test your understanding on how these equations link. So make sure you understand all the formula and the links. Just a guide on how well you should know your formula. When I was preparing for my exam, if you ask me about a formula, I can tell you the exact exam chapter and topic of where the formula is located in the formula booklet. Another note is that paper 1 is actually structured to start from paper 1 and all the way to the last chapter. So make sure you don't waste time flipping through the formula booklet. There may be times where you need to, as a HL question may test both from chapter 5 and chapter 11. If you've encountered a question you don't know, try to find a formula related to the topic area and the variables available in the question. This way you're more likely to figure it out, and if not, you'll possibly get the working out marks. So that's my top 5 tips for IB Physics HL exam. A quick note, these tips also apply to Physics SL as well. Hope this helped you to get your desired score. And last note, don't forget to subscribe, like and comment below, and see you in my next video. Bye!